The elusive black bear has found refuge in the deep south of the United States, in the thick swamplands of Georgia and Florida. Swamplands where even the most determined hunters dare not go. But our cameras braved the intense heat, the hostile alligators, and the slithering snakes of the oppressive Okefenokee swamp to bring you rare footage of the powerful and secretive Florida black bears. Footage never before seen on TV. We'll take you into the heart of the black bear's den on this edition of Unspoiled Planet. The Earth is home to a variety of bears with distinct differences in habitat and physical characteristics. In North America, varieties of black bears can be found in forests as far north as Canada and as far south as Mexico. In the southeast region of the United States is the state of Georgia, where researchers have been studying black bears. Known as the land of cotton, Georgia was named after King George II and was one of the first states to ratify the United States Constitution. On the southern border of Georgia, extending into Florida, is one of the largest, oldest, and most well-preserved swamplands in North America, the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge. Located on the famed Suwannee River, the refuge encompasses nearly 400,000 acres. The early American Indians called it Okefenokee, meaning the land of the trembling earth, because the thick deposits of peat have created an unstable forest floor. Stomping on the ground here can literally cause trees to tremble. The swamp is so dense, it appears as a black hole on satellite images. An incredible variety of wildlife can be found here, some of them endangered. There are more than 200 species of birds, including the red-shouldered hawk. Nearly 50 different mammals call the Okefenokee home. Deer are abundant, as are wild hogs. There are more than 60 species of reptiles. The refuge is widely known for its large population of alligators. In the water are nearly 40 types of amphibians and nearly 40 species of fish. Among the wildlife, plants, and vegetation are some of the country's most colorful and interesting insects. And of course, the refuge is home to a growing population of Florida black bears. They are large, powerful omnivores that primarily eat acorns, nuts, berries, and other vegetation, as well as insects. The average adult male weighs about 160 kilos and has a lifespan of 15 to 25 years. Females are usually smaller, averaging about 70 kilos. They also tend to live longer, up to 30 years.
Gotcha.
The Florida black bears are a landscape species covering a large home range. Entire ecosystems, not just individual habitats. The average home range of an adult female black bear is about 28 square kilometers. A male's can approach 171 square kilometers. The swamp is very important to the bears. The Okefenokee offers excellent places to den. Mother bears, searching for protection when giving birth and nurturing their cubs, often make their home in a hollow tree, sometimes as high as 30 meters off the ground. The swamp provides an excellent source of food. Some bears remain very active during the winter months, foraging on the abundant food in areas of open pines where bitter gallberry is plentiful. Bears know that the swamp also serves as a safe refuge during the hunting season. Bears being chased or hunted often escape to the thick swamplands where even the most determined hounds and hunters refuse to follow. Scientists have taken great interest in the bears of the Okefenokee. For 5 years, using the refuge as his laboratory, research scientist David Brandenburg has set out to determine population size, the effects of hunting, and the greatest threat to the black bear.
Two main broad objectives that we wish to accomplish here in studying black bears are, first of all, we want to determine population dynamics, that is the growth rate of this population. Basic question there is this population growing or declining? Very, very simple question. Secondly, we want to determine habitat use. What habitats do these bears use? What habitats are critical? Also, we want to look into the future, and we want to know, is there enough habitats out there that the black bear will be able to survive 25 years from now. Also, we want to look at the effects of humans have on bears here, and two major factors that we're focusing on is silviculture practices, how that affects black bears, and also hunting. How does hunting affect this population?
In a moment, we'll follow David as he tempts fate and attempts to trap a black bear. A closer look at these amazing creatures of our unspoiled planet. The Florida black bears of southeast Georgia's Okefenokee refuge are one of the least studied groups of bears because of the difficulty finding and tracking them. Some parts of the swamp are so snarled and challenging it can take more than 1 hour to move 90 meters. But research scientist David Brandenburg is determined to study the black bears deep in the forest, even if it requires crawling his way in.
We track these bears on foot, especially going into the dens in the wintertime. We do a lot of ground tracking all during times of day and at night. But since this is one of the most remote, inaccessible areas in the southeast, most of our tracking is done by fixed-wing aircraft.
During the study, David's team conducts intensive trapping to assess the condition of each bear, gather population data, and to place radio collars on adult bears selected for further study, primarily females, a plentiful source of valuable information.
We radio collar these bears to find out all sorts of information. That's pretty much the meat of the study. And once we put radio collars on the bear, we'll find out things like survival rates, also mortality factors, what do these bears die of, and survival rates. We'll find out litter size, we'll find out longevity, age of first reproduction. Also, very important, what habitats do these bears use. So putting that radio collar on that bear opens up the world of these bears to us.
The collars are attached during a routine set of procedures David's team performs when bears are caught at one of the trap sites in the refuge. Over the course of the study, researchers estimate they will have trapped 75% of the bears and collared more than 80 of them.
But when we capture a bear, of course, the first thing that we do is immobilize the bear. We use a mixture of Ketoset and Romper, very, very safe immobilizing drug. Puts the bear down in about 5 to 10 minutes, keeps the bear down for about an hour while we can handle this bear safely.
Once the tranquilizer takes effect, the team carefully releases the bear from the snare. With the bear free from the trap, David applies drops to keep the eyes moist during the procedure, since the bear will not be able to blink under sedation. Then the team begins collecting data to assess the bear's physical condition. During the 45-minute procedure, researchers will take a small hair sample and extract a little used tooth. In the lab, they will slice the tooth into paper-thin sections, then stain it to accurately reveal the bear's age. The hair sample will be analyzed for DNA. The captured bears are also given a permanent identification mark, a lip tattoo.
That right there looks worse than the tooth one. To me.
You remember this too.
That'd be fine to me to look projectiles going in my lip.
Also, if they're not down good, you know it when you do this.
More tender, more nerve endings on the snout area.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, still that, I'm not so sure about that, but anyway.
1, 5, is it 3?
Yeah, 1, 5, 3.
It's upside down, so it's not bad.
That's pretty much a permanent mark, we hope.
You didn't pull the tooth also.
Often an ear tag or another tattoo on the inside of its leg are also used. These markings will assist researchers in the future if the bear is trapped again or harvested during hunting season. Once the procedure is complete, David records all the data and then administers a drug that will wake the bear and get her moving again, allowing her to return to normal activities. The stimulant is injected into the bear's tongue. Then, the team waits for the bear to rise and return to the swamp. The first few steps are a bit shaky, but the effects wear off quickly.
We might have to skin this one. Get them from Paul.
From the valuable data collected at trap sites and from the radio collars, researchers have learned that the black bear population is growing in the Okefenokee. It is also apparent that these bears tend to stay within their home range. The average number of cubs per female is between 2 and 3, with litters ranging from 1 to 4. To count the number of cubs, researchers seek out mothers with their cubs for visual confirmation, being extremely careful not to disturb them. Mothers often stay with their cubs for as long as 2 years, but a disturbance may provoke a mother to abandon her young early. One surprising and amusing finding that came from trapping is to see these bears demonstrate their intelligence by learning to enjoy the food at the trap sites without getting caught. Researchers discovered that bear visits to the trap site each year grew from as few as 57 to more than 400. As the number of visits increased, the percentage of trappings decreased from 58% to 10%. The visiting bears even displayed their boldness by raking their paws through the trap without getting caught, as if they were teasing the researchers to catch them, if they can. People living near the Okefenokee are fascinated with bears and are anxious to assist with the study in hopes of seeing the animals. But there were some hunters who were concerned that the research, especially the trappings, was interfering with their sport.
All we saying is when you do come in there to the traps and you trap the bear, that bear is not coming back to that area for 2 to 3 weeks. Then after a 3-week period, he might come back over there and get him something to eat.
That's false.
Well, that's...
Radio telemetry has shown that these bears do not leave their home range or the area they've trapped. Matter of fact, we've caught a number of these bears 4 times, 5 times, 6 times. I've radio tracked bears really the next day at the trap site. Matter of fact,
are they little bears or big bears?
I'm talking about the bears that we put radio collars on.
Right.
We trap them, we radio track them. One bear we caught on Big Swamp was a female. We caught her 2 weeks later, not only in the same area, but in the same trap. We've caught that bear 5 times now.
In Georgia's part of the Okefenokee, it is legal to chase bears with dogs, and hunters are allowed a brief harvesting season in the fall. Bears living in the Florida section of the refuge are not subjected to chasing or hunting because Florida laws ban those activities. This prompted researchers to set up 2 study areas to compare the hunted population with the non-hunted population. The results show that hunted bears tend to favor living in the refuge of the swamp areas, while non-hunted bears live in less protected areas of open pine trees. Although the research finds this bear population is able to survive the brief 6-day hunting season, it is a stressful time for David.
It's very stressful because we're trying to collect a lot of information on these bears. We're actually monitoring these bears out here while the hunt is going on. So basically, I'm sneaking around trying to find out where these bears are. Are they vulnerable to harvest? And these hunters are out there trying to kill them. So it's a kind of a unique kind of situation. But and when one of my radio card bears does get killed, and it happens, the first thing I tell the hunter is I congratulate him and everything, and I tell him, you know, that was my most favorite one.
Of course, David is just joking. He is careful to add that while losing a research subject may be difficult, the researchers were careful not to do anything that might discourage the hunters or bias the hunt and compromise the study. When Unspoiled Planet continues, the greatest threats to the Florida black bears. While the overall population of Florida black bears has been declining, the population of bears in the Okefenokee has been growing. In some regions, Florida black bears have been classified as a threatened species and are granted some protection by the government. The #1 direct cause of death to Florida black bears is due to vehicle-related accidents. The black bear's affection for a wide variety of foods is often a source of conflict with humans. While it's extremely rare for black bears to attack humans, one of the most widely reported conflicts is bears rummaging through garbage. As the bear and human populations in Florida and Georgia continue to grow, the number of conflicts between bears and humans will rise. One of the major factors concerning scientists is the loss of habitat. A healthy bear population needs at least 400,000 acres to survive. Bears and other animals requiring large home ranges may eventually run out of space as lands are converted to other uses. As one researcher said, when the bears run out of room, they disappear. Florida's human population is growing rapidly. Over a 10-year period, there was a 24% increase, 3 million people, bringing the total population to more than 16 million and prompting an increase in land development for residential and commercial construction. Now, Florida has more than 7.3 million housing units. Of course, development is not the only cause of habitat loss. Each year, wildfires destroy thousands of acres in Florida. Logging operations temporarily reduce habitat areas, but are often replanted. Other land conversions, such as surface mining and farming, also reduce land that black bears might use. An additional problem to maintaining habitat areas is the high cost of land in Florida. Some conservation groups seeking to purchase land for wildlife use are finding it increasingly expensive. As undeveloped forest areas that provide bears and other animals with food and shelter disappear, the ability of the Florida black bear to survive is diminished. Abundant sources of food are always a concern, especially in the fall when the reproduction cycle is critical. Females need to be well nourished to deliver and sustain their cubs. Weak females may give birth to small cubs that have little chance of survival. But the Okefenokee Refuge has proven to be a strong source of plentiful foods. Some say one of the biggest threats to these bears is our lack of knowledge about them. The more scientists and public officials know about growth rates and habitat use of the Florida black bears, the better they can make decisions that benefit both animals and people. As long as the deep swamps of the Okefenokee remain intact, these bears will always have a safe refuge with plenty of food, living the life they have led for centuries on our unspoiled planet.